where inspired ideas and absolute realities converge. A safe place where boundaries blur and secure data shape the world. Learn, connect, and grow. Join us on this journey into the Measurverse.
It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you joining our panel discussion on the disruption in the age of Measurverse. My name is Wenjun Ai, AVP of APAC Customer Success in AppsFlyer, and I'm truly honored to be the moderator of this session. As Ronan said, our industry operates in a dynamic environment where there's a technological advancement involving customer demands and shifting market forces have been reshaping the landscape consistently but gradually. However, over the past 3 years, due to the pandemic conditions and also the micro conditions, all of these changes has been intensified, which has completely shattered the existing status quo. It has already brought the business disruptions, including the supply chain interruption and market fluctuations. It caused people disruptions, such as job uncertainties and remote work adaptations. And furthermore, it has led to the self-disruptions, which we will need to acquire new skills and adapt to the digital transformation. As we navigate through all of this transformed landscape, a key question has risen up. How can we stay abreast of current challenges, anticipate the future disruptions, and develop the strategies which embrace innovation and flexibility? So in the next 45 minutes, our esteemed panelists will share their challenges, learnings, and experiences on how they've tackled the disruptions and shed light on the path forward. Please join me, welcome our panelists, Kimmy Wu, CMO of Rocket Studio. Bella Gupta, founder of AdMama. And Teza Vijaya, co-founder and COO of Zendeed. Welcome. So it is so great to have all of you here. Could you please introduce a bit about yourself and the company? Let's start with Kimmy.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimi, and I'm the CMO of Rocket Game Studio, one of 4 teams of OneSoft. And Rocket Studio was founded in 2015, and until now, after 8 years of development, we have a lot of successful in developing people, and our specializing is in developing and publishing games globally. And our main market is US, Japan, Korean, and Tian country. So I would like to say thank you to AppsFlyer team to inviting me to be here today to share about my opinion on the significance of measurement. And I hope to learn back from all of the panelists here and all of attendees here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Kimmy, I know that when you joined Rocket Studio 3 years after it was established, and at that moment we only have 4 people, and now it has grown to more than 30 people, and you are the CMO already. So what's your secret for reaching to this stage?
I think there's quite a lot of main factors that contribute to it, but I think the most important thing is the support of all the people around me. Since I first joined Rocket until now, from our team member to the leaders and the manager, especially our CEO, who always give us a really good advice in how to build up the team, how to do the business, how to keep it stable and develop. So I learned a lot and feel thankful for that.
Yeah, and I can feel the vibe that how you engage with your team, how much trust you have here. Great to hear. And Bella, how about you? Can you do some introduction of yourself and the company?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm Bella Gupta D'Souza, the founder of Edamama in the Philippines. We're a homegrown retail platform, both online and offline, solving for parenting as an opportunity. When I heard about Mama Asia, I thought I was coming to a parenting conference. So thank you for clarifying. But yeah, we're very proud partners of AppsFlyer. We really enjoy working with you, and of course, we love working with Zendit as well. So great to be here to share some perspectives.
And great to have you here as well. I know that you have really rich career journey and very remarkable. Among different stages, what is your greatest achievement so far?
Sure, yeah. So I moved to Southeast Asia in 2011. I actually moved to Thailand. I started Groupon's operations in the Thai market. I actually also grew up in Thailand, so very happy to be here. And so I've had a career in startups pretty much since coming back to Southeast Asia in 2011. But I would say that, I was starting companies for others. Groupon, I was part of a larger machine. And then I moved to the Philippines in 2012. I was a startup entrepreneur in residence in a large telco operator there called Globe. So I felt like I was getting practice as an entrepreneur before, going solo and launching Edamama in May of 2020. I would say that that's maybe the accomplishment I'm most proud of, because I feel that with doing Edamama, working in the parenting space, as a mom myself of 2 children, I feel that I get to really live out my ikigai. So if you guys are familiar with what that is, right? It's where you can combine what you love with what you're good at, what you think the world needs, and what you can get paid for. So I feel like this is really more than just a business. It's a personal mission of mine, and I get to balance my passion with opportunity. And 80% of our management team is women, so I think we're also able to really build a successful business while being able to bring flexibility into the workplace that so many maybe women in the audience can relate with, right? Especially those of us who are raising young families. So I would say that's maybe the accomplishment I feel most sort of rewarded by.
It's awesome to hear. As a mom of 2, I can definitely echo back the excitement, and there's no wonder Edamama has become the largest homegrown e-commerce platform in the Philippines. So welcome, Bella. And Tessa?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. My name is Tessa, CEO and co-founder of Zendit. A little bit about Zendit. We're a B2B payment infrastructure player. So we like to say we're the Stripe of Southeast Asia. And why is this so exciting? We already have a Stripe. Why do we need a Zendit? We're playing here in Southeast Asia where payments innovation is really at its cusp. It's a really exciting time to be here. We're playing in a space where most people are not making payments by credit cards, but with other means. So we're really excited to be part of this growth, part of the innovation of Southeast Asia, and we're here to enable people to come online, to empower them to be able to sell online and go digital very seamlessly and easily.
It's great to hear, and I saw that according to the news, Zendit has developed really, really fast for the past several years. And I know that you are not only a very strong driving force in the company, but also a true advocate for the women in tech. Do you have any projects that are running recently?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of collaborations. Why I'm so passionate about women in tech is, for example, I'm the first female co-founder in a fintech company in Indonesia who's been able to bring the company to unicorn status. And there aren't many others out there, in Indonesia at least. So sitting here with you guys, or you ladies, it's really fantastic. I'm really proud that having this whole female panel, for example. Zendit supports many, many initiatives for young women to come back, to join the tech industry. So we have many, many events to that tune. We support, girls' technovation events in Indonesia. We're about to have another one. So it is something super exciting because I think to get more girls or women to participate in the tech industry, it starts when they're young.
Yeah, that's exciting. Hopefully one day we will have opportunity to collaborate together. right?
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. As you can see that we have very strong representative from e-commerce, fintech, and gaming. So according to AppsFlyer latest observation, despite the slowdown economic situation, the three verticals are still keep on growing. Could you please share with us how do you manage all of these changes? So let's start with Tessa.
Changes in, I guess, since pandemic or through
Yes.
the pandemic. I think first and foremost, when before the pandemic, Zendit was a one market startup. So we started in Indonesia and we're focused solely on Indonesia. Through the pandemic, I'd like to say we had foresight, but really it was a coincidence that we expanded to the Philippines right before the pandemic hit. So I remember me and my co-founder went to Manila. We were actually shopping for our office with the director there, Yang. And then we came back, and 2-3 weeks later, the borders closed, and we were like, wow. And then what happened during the pandemic, obviously in the first few months, our volumes dropped by something like 95%. We were significantly concentrated in travel at the time, and obviously no one was traveling. In fact, I spoke to some of the co-founders of travel companies, and they were like, oh, we're so fortunate. We only dropped 95%, not 100%. So I was like, fantastic. So really during the pandemic, we had to really rethink how we approach the business. On the one hand, it was great because it helped us think about what else. We had an anti-COVID vaccine campaign for the growth team. Think about what else, where can we go? We had to rethink how we worked, especially we became regional when we couldn't see one another. So thinking about how we work together when all we see are Zoom or Google Meet screens. We also had to think about how we can grow these teams, right, all remotely. So I think it was a really interesting and challenging time. Throughout, actually, we were able to grow faster than ever before because actually pandemic really accelerated digitalization and market. And yeah, it's been an exciting ride ever since.
That's so well said, because this kind of intense situation actually push us to think out of the box. And Bella, how about you?
Yeah, I guess to set some context about e-commerce in the Philippines, I think in 2019, the whole size of market for e-commerce was only about $3 billion compared to, let's say, Indonesia, which was at 25 billion, right? We're the second most populated country after Indonesia. So the Philippines was really lagging in the region in terms of e-commerce penetration. But the pandemic really shifted that. And e-commerce in the Philippines, I think in those 2 years between 2019 and 2021 grew at over 100% CAGR. And today, Philippines is actually amongst the world's fastest growing e-commerce markets. So it's a very exciting time for us to be doing what we're doing. Of course, though we didn't see the pandemic coming, we can't take credit for our growth story. But I would say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. We always had a very strong thesis that e-commerce would grow very aggressively in the Philippine market. As a mom myself, I felt highly underserved as a customer online, just given my own time and money that I spend online for my kids. And so, we got started in May of 2020. That's when we launched. And it was a very unusual time. But I think that for anyone who started a business in the pandemic, it's a gift in a way, especially if you're doing fintech, e-commerce, gaming, and many other tech startups wherein you're forced to be agile from day one. There's so much uncertainty around you from sort of what business model you're going to adopt, how you're going to operate, to even managing people in a very challenging time, right, where there's no rule book on how things go. So I think it was a gift in a way because it taught us to be very nimble, very agile from day one, and ride this tailwind of rapid adoption of e-commerce in the Philippine market. And so we've continued to sustain that. In our first 2 years, I think we grew 400% CAGR. We are now today the largest homegrown e-commerce platform in the country. And with that growth, though, is a dose of reality and realism. I think in a post-pandemic world, e-commerce is also going to see challenges. People are, going to still go offline to shop as well. So it's about finding that balance. And in this macro climate, it's also about, really accelerating your path to profitability as quickly as possible. So, we're always thinking about these things as founders, but, we're very grateful for the start that the pandemic gave us.
Great to hear. And how about Kimi?
Actually, from my point of view, pandemic was a great opportunity for I think for the gaming industry in general and for Vietnam gaming industry in particular, because at that time I saw a lot of advantage for the traffic increase, the spam increase. So I also saw a lot of gaming studio in Vietnam can grow extra time than before because due to the fact that people have to stay at home and they spend a lot of time for playing games. After the pandemic, everything goes back to the normal. I saw that change too, but I think that change doesn't affect a lot to rocket activity in business because what we are doing now is quite consistent with what we did before. We focus on, developing people, and we focus on building more quality product. For gaming, we focus on mid-core and hybrid model I think that can be much more stable and not affected by the fluctuation of the market.
Yeah, actually, three of us have mentioned that uncertainties here. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities, a lot of gaps, risk. We need to handle it. So I think it's especially very challenging during the pandemic time. So Bella, your business was established during that period of time. Well, you mentioned there are a lot of uncertainties. What kind of strategies or actions you have implemented which helped you to stabilize your business and pave the growth for the future?
Sure, yeah. I think the first thing I would say is the importance of having stayed focused. At that time, it was when we started Edamama in May of 2020, we were fully remote and we were seeing very quick adoption of the platform in the market. And there's a tendency to get distracted by that and say, should we become sort of everything, right? Should we, what kind of merchandise mix should we expand, etc. Should we bring inventory in-house, or should we adopt more of a marketplace model? Should we outsource our fleet, or should we build it in-house? And there's a lot of opinions about where we should go with the business, but I think it was so important for us to stay focused and build a vertical play rather than trying to build a horizontal play. And I think that really sort of paid off for us by being very, very focused on a specific customer segment, which was mothers, right? And in the pandemic, these were the key stakeholders of the household. They were the key decision makers who were keeping everything together. So we were able to really focus on that customer and really drive that experience that we felt they were looking for at that very uncertain time. So I'm very grateful that we kept that focus. The second is sort of what I alluded to earlier, really being comfortable with agile decision making. You really have to embrace it. You don't have all the answers, so surround yourself with people who can really help you make quick decisions and embrace pivoting, embrace agile decision making, because it's so important, I think, and it continues to be very important to us. I think the third thing I would say is building a great team. E-commerce in the Philippines is, as I was mentioning earlier, right, so nascent still as an industry, and we realized a lot of expertise wasn't available in that market. And the pandemic really normalized hiring cross-border. So, we brought in an analytics head from another market. We built an engineering team in India. We were able to bring in other talent from other markets. And so I think that is also incredibly important, right? It's ultimately your team that's going to create the magic and execute on the vision. So I would say those are the three things that really helped us a lot.
It's very insightful, and also like while the environment become very intense, it's very easy to lose the focus. And I also very admire what Zendit has done during that period of time. You have been changing your focus to SMB, and at the same time, instead of taking the conservative approach, you have decided to expand to more markets, as you mentioned before. So how do you weigh the opportunity cost while you are making a decision?
I think for us, I mean, the saying was this, right, that we went by. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. We saw during the pandemic with the acceleration of digital transformation that there was opportunity to expand our product line, what we already have in Indonesia, right? Again, as a reminder, we're playing in a space, Southeast Asia, in a space where everything is non-cards. There were a lot of things that are new. I mean, I think I recall when we first started in the Philippines, in Indonesia, there's this thing called virtual accounts, which everyone's like, what is that? It's not a real account, it's just a payment code. But really, it's designed so that in a space where most people pay by bank transfer, we can understand who's paying for what, right? And I think in the Philippines, that was very early stage, so we tried to figure that out, for example, with banks there. And then in a sense, Philippines kind of leapfrog us, right? Because digital payments came later for them, they were able to do direct debit really well versus in Indonesia, where so many people are so used to doing bank payments, they don't want to go and take the leap to do direct debit, and there's a lot of distrust in doing that. So really for us, it was thinking about in such a time, pandemic is not like, it's very different than other headwinds, right? It's not like, there's a recession in XYZ economy. This is globally, everything shut down, right? No one could get out of their house. But through that, we were like, there must be opportunity, and obviously people like yourselves as well, companies like yourselves, right? So it really was about, this is fantastic. There's an acceleration to go digital. How do we figure out how to make the most of it? So it's about really getting to figure out what the market wants, building these things with our partners, and then, really building for what the merchants are asking for.
Yeah, really listen to the market needs and being very sensitive, react really effectively. That's super well said. And Kimi, as CMO of one of the biggest gaming house in Southeast Asia, so how do you ensure that you catch all of this growth opportunity? How do you make sure that your team success is attributed and measured properly?
I would like to share that our slogan is succeed together. It means that we need to evaluate the success quite clear, and we need to know the performance of individual and the team itself. So about the marketing, for example, about the marketing performance, we have a lot of internal and external tools, and actually AppsFlyer is one of our tools to measure the performance of marketing to each project in which our team members are involved. So we can see the performance and the work attribution of them quite clearly and timely. And about human resources evaluation, we have our internal HR data that is quite detailed, and we collect the information of our employee about their work satisfaction, about their mental and physical health information, and even we can know that they are stressful or not during a period of time. So we can find easy to find any issue that happen related to human resources. But every issue related to human resources are really complicated, and if we cannot solve it as soon as possible, it could be a huge, trouble for the whole company. So I'm quite confident with the system, the data system of Rocket Studio to ensure that we can know the success of individual, and we can evaluate it properly.
Love it because like it's very important to measure business growth and at the same time care about the people's health. Because echo back to what Bella has mentioned at the very beginning, to have a very strong team is very important. And you also have a very matured BI system in order to measure the performance. And do you think that because it's so mature and structured, do you think the pressure of measure the performance actually encourage the innovation or stifling creativity?
Actually, from my point of view, there's no conflict between the innovation and the performance measurement, because in Rocket, one of our core value is every decision should be made based on data. So we use data to see, for example, for me, creativity could be some small change or could be some big change. If it could bring the improvement to the business. So how to determine it change, the change can bring the improvement to the business is quite important. So we use the tool system to evaluate the change is better or not to our business. For me, creativity is kind of post-measurement. We use measurement to determine that it's creativity or innovation or not. So I think there's no conflict here.
That's good. That's great to hear because nowadays, as we mentioned, thinking out of the box, everything needs to have a really deep foundation based on fully basic understanding of the market. Then we will be able to achieve like the innovations. So you have also mentioned you balance and you encourage the experiments. So how do you exactly balance the performance measuring and the innovation or experiments that you do?
Actually, as I mentioned before, I think that quite are two steps in the same process. We always need to do the testing as a daily task every day. We need to know that the test work or not work for our business. Then we can see that it's creativity or innovation. So I mentioned it's quite the two steps in the same process.
Okay, that's great. And this relates to what I've asked Kimi, Tessa, and Bella. For your respective companies, how do you define a solid measurements framework? And how do you ensure your company has one? Let's start with Tessa.
Sure. I think we're a VC-backed startup, so I think whatever it is that we do, obviously we also, we know the game that we play. It's about success. Yes, it's about growth, but it's also about giving the returns to investors. And what that means is having to align with them with the measurement that they think is okay. So generally, I think what we do with the company is to have that one clear goal, whether it's payment volumes or revenue, a goal that investors can also understand, that the market can also understand. I think it's important to as leaders, we may have multiple goals. We may want to figure out, how do we reduce costs? How do we understand margins for different products? But as a leader in an org, that one org, I believe, should always only have one goal, so we don't get confused, right? So for us, we pick one metric, we go with it for the whole company, and then we ensure whatever decision we make aligns with that particular one goal. Say, for example, our goal is growth in payment volumes. It has to reach a certain amount in a year. Everybody understands that goal, and every decision we make is based on, are we going to be able to achieve that goal? Much like Kimi is positioning it, it's about data, right? So understanding, okay, if we're going to build a certain product, will it get us to that payment volume? We need to ask our merchants, say, how much can you bring us? And what that means is we can make the decision of which product to prioritize first, which industries we prioritize first, and so on and so on.
Is there any tool or practices that you have helped you to measure the data performance, which can share with us?
Sure. I think we're no longer. I say we're a startup, but we're really not. We're already 8 years in. So for us, we have a little bit more discipline now. We do business area reviews with each department. We ensure that each department has clear metrics to measure. We ensure we can automate as well, right? Because as a tech startup, there's no way you can do all these things manually. So we do use tools to be able to see how each product performs as well as how each team performs. I think extremely important. It can be as simple as a dashboard from, that we can use from a third party to even something on G Sheets first, but definitely that measurement is extremely important in order to know if we're performing well or not.
That's great because it's very important to set the common goal, as you said, to let everyone understand to work to get towards that together. And based on the nature of different functions, we have different metrics in order to complete our mission in order to that direction. How about it, like on your side, Bella?
Yeah, I think the beauty of being a digital business is everything can be measured, right? And I love that. And so for us, building a framework for measurement is really, it encompasses the whole organization, right? It starts from what tools you use. There are free tools, there are paid tools, there are tools you can build in-house, there are tools that you have to outsource and sort of leverage, such as AppsFlyer, right? And then beyond tools is the people, right? So we have a business intelligence function, and they sit fairly independently. They report directly into me, and so they're a standalone function in the organization, and they really power the data access across all teams, and democratize that access of information to whichever team needs it. So that brings us to process and culture. So we built a process and culture around measuring things, driving decision making based on data, and also setting goals, KPIs based on metrics, right? So I think it's really about, for us, it's building that holistic ecosystem where you're obviously powered by data and analytics, but driven by other aspects like your values and your people and your culture.
Yeah, we have a lot of practices like this as well in AppsFlyer in order to, rely on the data in order to make the decision to understand the market and the customer. But at the same time, as a leader, as we mentioned, nowadays our day-to-day work become more intense than before because we need to set the directions, set the strategies, try to catch every opportunity effectively on time. So it's a lot on our side. At the same time, as a leader, we have a big team to monitor and to motivate them in order to achieve what we want to reach. So Kimi, as a leader, so how do you think that, how do you handle this pressure, and how do you think a leader can be disciplined and compassionate at the same time?
Yeah, sure. I think discipline is really important to keep everything on track. But we, in Rocket, we need to care about the people feeling and emotion as well. And we have we have one thing that we need to do, that Rocket Studio wants to be the most happiness environment for people to work in 2025, and we are trying to do that. So I think our slogan is succeed together. It means that it's not only about the workflow. We want to connect people firmly to make the business more stronger. So I think it's really important to keep still, disciplined and still compassionate about the work.
That's that's how we are trying to monitor the situation. I think it's a pressure or challenge for each of us. And how do you handle it, Tessa, on your end?
Yeah, I mean, look, every tech company, one of my friends actually said, hey, every tech company is like an HR company, right? Because without our people, we wouldn't have any product at all, right? We need people to create the product, to get that running, and to deliver it to market. So I think it's important as a leader to remain connected to the folks who are helping you build this great company. But it's a little bit different when you're a smaller company rather than a bigger company, right? Of course, when you're a bit smaller, you want to stay connected to everyone, do your one-on-ones, listen into the feedback, make sure that everyone remains satisfied at the job. But as you scale, you get bigger, those things probably don't scale. So what it translates to, being compassionate to me, is about, again, tools, having the right measurements, right? So doing surveys And then it's about policies, making policies that ensure that, you know, your people are covered and are I would like to say protected of things like insurance and everything else, right? To make sure that they have job satisfaction. And I know those things seem dry, but also as important because, you know, relationships are great. Being able to connect to your folks are great, but sometimes they can't scale with like 900 people. Your time is very limited. So you have to be able to have a means, the tools to understand what your people need, and you have to be able to then translate it to things where that keep people satisfied on the job and make sure that, you know, we protect them as much as possible as well.
Yeah, we also do some surveys in order to understand what's going on and how do they really think about the company, which we find is very helpful for us to improve our company policies, strategies in maintaining people and improve the satisfaction. And Bella, you are no stranger of startups because you have a really rich experience on establish different kind of startups. So how do you suggest, or what's your key learnings for being successful leaders in startup, especially during this kind of challenging time?
Yeah, I wanted to also go back to the compassionate leadership thing very quickly, right? Just putting a gender lens on this because I do run a parenting startup. You know, I think women are inherently compassionate leaders. I have always found this to be true. And that's why we need more women in the boardrooms around the world, starting companies as well. In fact, there was a great study, I don't know if anyone saw that in HBR, about how CEOs who have daughters are actually perceived as more socially responsible. And that's probably translating even into how they make decisions, right? So I think compassionate leadership is very important in the workplace, and it maybe comes more naturally to some of us. But you know, especially in these times when it's been very difficult for a lot of people, being compassionate is a basic human value, and I think being compassionate is also being yourself, being authentic at work, and you know, also being honest in feedback across the board. From a leadership perspective standpoint, yeah, I would really harp on authenticity at the workplace. I think a lot of women here might relate to this, like we're raised to think that we have to act like a man to succeed. But I think for me, what has been true as a leader is just being myself and bringing a human side to work every day. And I would say that's sort of the leadership principle with which I like to run things.
It's very inspiring because sometimes we lost ourselves on our leadership style just because we want to adapt to some of already existed style. But being ourselves actually can trigger the powers inside of us and trigger the more powerful leadership here. And now I'm going to ask you a question that in AppsFlyer we always ask ourselves. To three of you, is there anything you would do differently if you have a chance to do so, and why? So, it seems that you have a lot to say, Bella, so let's start with you then.
I said, how much time do we have? I think the one thing I would say in my experience was learning the art of delegation. I think I have learned this along the way to really build and empower people under you rather than trying to be the solver of all problems, right? So I think one thing that I would say if I could do differently from the beginning would be to put less burden on myself and really surround myself with very strong leaders and empower people to make decision making. And that it related to that is being open about where things are, you know, where you need help, what answers you're still sort of looking for, and so I think that's one that comes to mind.
And how about you, Tessa?
I think for us, we're coming from a place where, you know, we start from zero in a house, which I call the Southeast Asian version of the Silicon Valley garage, to suddenly being in 3 markets and now, you know, hopefully in 5 in the next few years. So I think the cost of growing so fast sometimes is that we focus on external customers, we focus on growth, we don't focus as much on foundational things internally. Even things like measurements, things like internal automations, operations automations, coming from running operations. I think if I had a do-over, maybe not so much in this very, very early stage, but being able to take a pause, maybe at some point, and thinking about how do we build internally so we're not always running after growth. I analogize running a startup like driving a rocket ship while building it all at the same time, right? At some point in time, we have to take a pause, maybe orbit the Earth a little bit, build the right rocket ship so we can get to Mars or Saturn. I think if I had to do over, I would pause a little bit more and think about how it's not a chasing game.
I can definitely relate to it. Nowadays, we are trying to chasing, as you said, the growth, and sometimes we lose control, and we just ignore easily the foundations, and which have hold us like set on the ground and move the pace. So sometimes we also currently like scan whatever we have had in order to see how we can build the foundations more stable than before. And Kimmy, how about you?
Actually, from my point of view, I think I respect all the things that happen to my workflow. Even if the pain, even if the lesson, but we gain a lot of experience and we learn a lot how to grow up myself and grow up the company. So I just think if I had a chance I would join the gaming industry sooner. To faster learning, to have a much more chance to work with a lot of people, wonderful people here.
Awesome to hear. And so before we wrap up, let's use 1 or 2 sentences to summarize or giving your tips on how we should handle the disruptions in the age of Measurverse. So Tessa?
I think it's about agility, flexibility, right? Don't be wedded to your ideas. Let's think about what the market actually wants and be flexible to it. I think disruption, it's all about, we may have in our minds what disruption should look like, but we shouldn't forget that we are here for our customers. So I think regardless if we're building something new, fixing something, it's all about, let's talk to the customers, let's understand what they want, and then your ideas, innovation can come from that.
Wise word. And Bella?
Yeah, my first ever boss said to me, "In God we trust, everyone else must bring data to the table," right? And I that has always stuck with me. And so I would say, in the age of Measurverse, you got to be data-centric, especially if you're a tech startup. But data is not everything as well. Sometimes data can also bias thinking and lead to sort of missed insights. So it's always dovetailing your focus around data-driven decision making with personal insights, gut, and frankly values and emotions, right? So it's about finding that balance always, but really instilling that culture, though, nonetheless, of measuring output.
Thank you. And Kimmy?
I think if 2 things I want to talk about, I will talk about 2 core values of Rocket Studio. First, every decision should be made based on data. And the second is success will come naturally if we have others succeed or succeed together. That thing from Rocket.
Yes, I really love the success comes together. And I think nowadays, in this session, what we've learned, a lot of insightful sharings. At the same time, we've learned that in the age of Measurverse, in such a dynamic environment, while we're facing these disruptions, as a leader, it's very important to stay focused, calm, with a growth mindset and encouraging innovation. and all the decisions and plans should be made based on a solid measurement platform and framework in order to understand the needs, the customer needs, the market trend, and as well to guide our way to the success and the directions that we've set together. So wish everyone a continuous success in your business, everyone here. And thank you again, Kimi, Bella, and Tessa for your great share. That was very insightful, and enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you very much.